My reading journal is one of my favorite notebooks in my lineup, but I know that I for sure would not have started one if it weren't for inspiration from others. That's what makes today's video so special. We're going to be flipping through not my reading journal, but Monica of Bibliophile by Night's journal. If you don't know Monica, she is one of the hosts of the Bujo Buddies book club, or the book club that her, myself, and our friend Rachel host together. Online though, she goes by Bibliophile by Night, and her reading journal is literally goals. Monica typically likes to use a square notebook for her reading journal, and for 2024 she went with this design from Archer and Olive. And compared to an unused square notebook, we can see that hers is looking quite chonky. She likes to use tabs to separate each of the different sections out, and flipping into the inside cover we have a nice simple nameplate page. This decoration on the inside cover came as part of the notebook, very pretty. But heading into the first official doc grid page, she typically doesn't use the singular sheet, the one that's on the right hand side with the cover kind of card, instead just sticking those together so that she opens up to a full spread. All of the headers that we see throughout the journal that have this lettering style she makes herself, just using her silhouette machine and her printer at home, and all of them have been printed on sticker paper so that they're nice and easy to just stick directly into the notebook. The font is called American Typewriter. It is definitely one of her favorites, and it's also the font that we use for the Goober Readathon and things like that, because then it will match nicely with her reading journal. That's not the only reason, it is also just a nice kind of basic lettering style, and given that she uses it in all of her different setups, it makes for a kind of cohesivity throughout the notebook. On the left hand side though, we have her 2024 year in pixels, this one being a reading year in pixels, and she likes to separate each of the boxes in half using a diagonal line, so she can record both the number of pages and also the number of hours listened to. This is because Monica reads both physical and audiobooks, and ebooks as well. All reading is fair game for Monica. I also like how she's noted down the days that she finished a book using a little dot, though notably I know she finished some books in the second half of the year, so that might have been something she decided wasn't really worth recording on here or didn't need to be recorded. But even just looking at this full tracker, I am in awe of her consistency. I can't get a tracker like this full in my regular everyday journal, and she's doing it in her reading journal. As we can tell from this layout here though, Monica reads a lot. It is definitely her main hobby, that and keeping up with her reading journal. So if as we're going through you're like, oh my gosh, I could never read that much, I could never find the time to read that much, it's cool, that's okay. This is Monica's main hobby and source of enjoyment though, so she makes time for it wherever she can. Over here though, we have the TBR Takedown Challenge with some guidelines on how to complete that. We also have her stats from previous years, so going back to 2016, and then also some statistics down the bottom regarding her read list, how many she bought, how many she unhauled, and things like that. These stickers are from Papershire, so stinking cute. And also as we go through, I will definitely be having cute aggression around Monica's handwriting because I think it's absolutely gorgeous. But over here we have the 2024 book battle. This one is like a head-to-head, so picking the top book from each of the months, then making them verse each other to then go into the next round, having those go up against each other, so on and so forth to get to the top book of the year. In 2024, Monica's top book was One Dark Window, which is definitely on my TBR. Her and Rachel both keep telling me I need to read that. It's gonna happen, I just haven't gotten around to it yet, but it's good to see that she definitely vouches for it. And then on the right hand side we have her Goodreads challenge. So one box for each of the books, and she's color coded them based on what month they were completed. She also specifies here that DNFs are not included. Now notably this was not enough space on the page because we also have a little tip in here, so you can see she read even more books than was initially set up on the layout. I'm not gonna go count how many these are because I'm sure we'll find a stats page somewhere that tells us how many books she read. We then have her 24 books that she wanted to read in 2024. Any of the ones she did end up reading get a little star rating sticker. Those ones are ones she also made herself. And then any of the ones she ended up unhauling, which is technically also a way to deal with the books on this list, those just got a little cross using a white gel pen. This is broken up into different categories though, so veterans, of which 3 were unhauled, the newest collected, 2 of those getting read, 1 getting unhauled, the longest books, which 2 were read, 3 of them are still there, the shortest ones, 1 was unhauled, 1 got read, and then series reads, of which we have 2 that were unhauled and 2 that were read. I like this way of dealing with these kind of like, 25 books or 24 books in the year of 2024 or 2025, especially because when setting up a layout like this, setting up the books that you're like, oh yeah, I really want to get to that, I'll read that next year. Eventually there will come a point, for some of our books at least, there will be like, yeah, nah, I'm not gonna read those. I think it's a nice way to honor that the book has been dealt with. even though it didn't necessarily get read like you initially intended. On this little tip-in, we have a series of rereads. So when they got reread, they got colored in. And then there was more space on the other side of this one to record some more if she wanted to. Over here though, we had the challenge of 24 series in 2024. I like that she's got her different color code down here. So if it got read, if it was read in that year, so anything in this brown color was read before the year started, anything in this kind of tan color she read during the year. Things that she didn't quite own just yet are in a gray color, and if she decided the series wasn't going to be for her, she wasn't going to continue, she could color that in black. I don't think I even have 24 series on the go right now, so that is very impressive. But flipping over, we have the new release calendar. On this one, she has a box for each of the months of the year and a space to record what books are coming out. In terms of the color coding here, I'm not sure if that's she acquired the book or she read the book, because we have brown and black. I'm sure there'd be a way to figure that out by going through and having a look through the rest of the pages. But also, just because I don't know the color code doesn't mean she doesn't. Thus, if you don't feel the need to include a color code on your layout, don't include one. As we'll go through, it becomes very, very obvious that Monica knows what she likes in her reading journal. She knows how she likes to use the layouts. So if you're using the same kind of layouts repeatedly, you kind of get a feel for how you like to structure them and how you like to use them. So you don't need to put in what would otherwise be redundant information for yourself. I do like that she has this little tip in the middle here. So this is her wish list of releases that didn't come out in 2024, but things she would like to acquire and read. Notably, fully filled up this side, so had to flip over to the other and start writing some down here too. I love these stickers, they are so super cute. But flipping over, we have her 2024 readathons and book clubs. In this one, the section at the top is for book clubs, I believe, and the section down the bottom is for readathons. So if we flip our little key out to the side here, you can see that the book clubs that Monica is part of are the Boudreaux Buddies book club, which fair, that's the one that she runs, the To Whatever End book club, the Literally Dead book club, and the Realm of Comics book club. In terms of her readathons, for the year-long readathons, we have Buzzwordathon, and then just other read-alongs and buddy reads. Any of the ones she did end up reading got a dot, any of the ones that didn't get read got a cross, or didn't get filled in, I suppose. You can see what I mean about her handwriting though, right? It is so cute, and it makes me so angry, because my handwriting doesn't look like that, and it makes me very jealous. But I would like to give Monica a small round of applause because she did read all of the book club books for our book club, unlike somebody, aka me, who didn't read Quicksilver because I just couldn't get into it. I'll get to it eventually, it's supposed to be a very good book, but anyway. We then have her books read and her books bought. Now her books read, you can see that she labels the shelf to show when she read the books, which I think is really cool, and then she color codes them based on the rating that she gave the book. Notably, she ran out of space down here, so November finishing here, and there wasn't enough space to fill in the whole of December, so December ended up on this one. Again, the handwriting, look at that. I know she uses quite a fine-tipped pen to do this, and I typically prefer something that's a little bit thicker, so my handwriting will never look like hers. On the other side though, we have her books bought, and she color codes those based on whether she's read them. So anything that's colored in, she did read. Anything that hasn't been colored, she hasn't read yet. Again, I could go through and count all of these to see how many she read, but I know she'll have a stats page, because there's always a stats page. Flipping over though, our next one is the Boudreaux Buddies book club. So we have them arranged here based on which month we read them in, and then arranged here based on this little schematic, effectively tying each of those books to the different themes or kind of prompts that we had to select them. I remember consistently having to come and ask Monica what the prompts were because I didn't have them written down anywhere that was useful. Notably, she did. It was up here at the start of her journal, so very sensible idea. For 2025 though, we're doing something slightly different, so we don't have the prompts in advance, so I don't need that this year, but it would have been good to have last year. On the other side though, we have other buddy reads that she was doing. It's nice to see that I was actually involved in some of these. I'm not the most reliable of buddy readers, but together we read A Fate Inked in Blood, we read When the Moon Hatched, House of Bane and Blood, and I was supposed to be part of this one, but I didn't start it. Again, I'll get to it eventually. This layout we have split into two, so we have 12 books from 12 friends, so taking a recommendation from each of 12 people, and then when she read it, she could put the little rating sticker, and then down the bottom she has her MDSC buddy reads. Notably, they only did 2 this year, so these spaces didn't get filled in. In terms of the A to Z challenge, so finding a book with an author for each of the letters of the alphabet in terms of last name, and then a title of a book with each of the letters of the alphabet. She did a really good job of this. So in authors, we've missed out on Q, U, X, Y, Z, and then in terms of titles, it's just J, K, X, Y, Z. Given the fact the only time I ever tried to do this, I got like 8 of the letters. Yeah, that's a very impressive turnout. On to the next layout though, we have a bunch more tip-ins, which I love tip-ins. I always love Monica's use of tip-ins, but this is for the Bookemon Readathon. Now, I know she didn't end up continuing with this challenge. It became a little bit too difficult, I guess is one way to say it. I think there was just too much involved and it was a little bit too complicated to the point where she wasn't really enjoying it so much, or like enjoying keeping up with it. So she didn't end up seeing it through for the whole year. And given the fact that I have absolutely no idea how this readathon works, I don't know what any of these sections are for, but the internal tip-in we have here is the Bookadex, so like a Pokedex but for books, or book creatures related to books, I don't know. There's also an item key, there's the items lists, there's the continued Bookadex, I suppose, that's kind of set up like this so you can say which ones you've got or something like that. Different items, and then under here we have tools. On the other side of this Dutch door we have further listings about the tools, I suppose. And then on the other side we have more pictures of the items key. As said though, I'm not too sure how this reading challenge works. For all of the reading challenges that are public challenges though, there are links in the description box below to where you can find more information if you are curious about them. But on to the next layout. This one is for Bookadex Continued, a little summary of monthly reading challenges, and then the Year in Aldea challenge. Now, I know it didn't necessarily bother Monica as much as it bothered Rachel, but the typical month for going back to Aurelium used to be August, and it got moved to September, and then the graphic didn't match up with reality, and Rachel was very tilted. I did not undertake this challenge, so I was fine, but in terms of the books that Monica selected for each of these, it's kind of cool to see that some of these were our book club reads, so Ink Blood Sister Scribe and Butcher and Blackbird were for book club. She also has some other ones, and for any of the months where it was back to Aurelium, so April and September for 2024, she's just stuck in a little piece of the Papershire stickers. The Papershire designs are so cute, and I love that she's used them throughout the start of her journal, but on to the next one, we have January. January's theme is notably berries, so we have strawberries and blueberries, along with some cute little leaves and flowers. This layout here though is for her kind of like monthly summary, so a calendar layout for the month of January, and then the different numbers in the little circles here represent the different books that she was reading. For any of the ones she finished, those got highlighted, and for any of the ones she didn't, there's no full highlight on those. We also have a little picture from her Instagram of the books that she had on her TBR, and across the month she read 10 books. On the other side though, we have a summary of the different book clubs, reading challenges, and that kind of thing that she was doing. So in terms of her book clubs, we have Boudreaux Buddies Book Club, yes, and the To Whatever End Book Club. We also have the Buddy Reads, and then the readathons she was doing. So Bookemon and all of the things related to that, the Year in Aldea readathon, the Buzzwordathon challenge, and then the challenge that she decided to take up for January specifically was TBR-a-thon by Leandra, the TBR Zero. It seems that she went for everything in the blue column, and then the bottom row here, so like old and maybe dusty, the first in a series, so on and so forth. Monica is definitely the one who has influenced me to take up more reading challenges in 2025, and so I'm enjoying doing TBR-a-thon in January of this year. Flipping over though, we are then into her reading reviews. So starting the year with a half page per book, we have a nice big cover. She then puts in her core pile scores, the dates that she started and finished the book, and then some other information about the book, including the title, if it's part of a series, who the author was, what format was the book, how many pages or hours was the book, and then her general review, including a star rating. I will not be looking at these too closely because some of these books are things I would like to read at some point and I don't want to be spoiled, but if you want to pause the video, have a snoop and see what Monica's thoughts were, you are more than welcome to. I, on the other hand, will definitely not be looking too closely outside of just looking at the covers. And then after her reviews for the month, we're into her monthly summary page. I love the summary and statistic pages that she does. I think that they are so cool. Again, definitely influenced me to start including these in my journal, but usually they're split into two halves, one of them being about the things she read and one of them about the things she bought. On this one you can see we just have a list of all of the books that she read throughout the month. We have her favorite and least favorite of the month, some honorable mentions, the longest and the shortest, and her first read versus her last read. In terms of the little graphs that she does, we have the source of the book, so like is it an audiobook, an ebook? We have the format, the audience, so adult, new adult, young adult, middle grade, etc. And then her rating breakdown. While at the start of the month we also had a little picture from her Instagram, that one was her TBR for the month. This one is the books that she did read. It's nice to have them in kind of like a little physical stack here. Of course some of them were also ebooks or audiobooks, so those ones get put on the side. But the other stats she also includes are just general things about like the number of books read, how many pages she read, hours listened to, did she have any DNFs, what was the average rating, were any of them rereads, if so how many series did she start, how many series did she continue, how many series did she complete, how many books in particular were for book clubs, how many buddy reads did she have, and how many books were for read-alongs or readathons. She also has statistics around how many diverse reads she had, her backlist, and then on this side it's all about things that were purchased. Here we have the list of books that were bought across the month, including some pictures of those as well. We have the different formats of the ways that she purchased them, so were they a physical book, an ebook, so on and so forth. She also includes a list of the books she has unhauled. I know one of those is now in my collection. How many did she borrow from the library, and thus how much money did it save her? And then also where did she purchase them from? In terms of our little covers, we have the first and last purchased, the most expensive versus least expensive, and then a couple that she is anticipating reading. One of those being our book club book for February. You can see that the structure here stays fairly similar, so we have the calendar, the books that she was planning on reading and when she read them, the little TBR picture here. In terms of the decoration, it's like a toxic lemonade theme. I don't know, it's pretty fun. And then over here, it's all of the kind of like reading challenge type things. So book clubs, buddy reads, readathons, and then the Battle of the Girl Bands readathon. This is one that I personally haven't heard of, but if you were curious about it, we do have it linked in the description box. After this though, straight on into her reviews, and we're going with the same format, so a half page for each of the books. Cover, statistics and details, and then all of the review things that I am not going to look too closely at. Butcher and Blackbird was our book club book for February. We have some more reviews here. As said, feel free to pause the video and have a snoop if you want to. I just don't want to linger on them too long because I will start reading them and then I will get spoiled for things and I don't want to do that. I love that with the one that ended up here in terms of shortest and last read, they're both purple and it just adds a lot of purple to the page, along with this one here which is like a pink purple. But we have the ones that she purchased, her little picture summary from Instagram, and those same kind of criteria that she uses each time, so favorite, least favorite, honorable mentions, longest, shortest, first read, and last read. I wonder how often it is that the last read is the shortest. I don't think it's going to be always that the first read is the longest, but this one in particular, I'd be interested to see how many months across the year this ends up happening. In terms of our book purchases, we have a shorter list this time, and that's just a little stack, and all of the ones purchased were paperbacks. So a very plain looking pie graph here. That being said, I still love the pie graphs, so it is still pretty cute. For March, we're going with a dragons theme. I love them, they're so cute. We have the TBR versus the books that were actually read. These ones in particular got crossed off, so I assume she actively decided not to read them, but then the rest of them were highlighted, so those ones are on our calendar here. And then in terms of the readathon or reading challenge she was doing, we have Realmathon. This one having a cute little flip out, which I love a flip out, love a tip in, I think it's so cute. This one having the different prompts and the points associated with them. And this is notably another reading challenge that I don't know how it works because I haven't done it myself. So if you were curious about it, be sure to check the description box. We have her reviews for the month though, still with the half and half format. The reason I keep mentioning this is because I know she changes it at some point, but I do love the consistency in them. This was something that I really liked in my reading journal, which was very much inspired by hers, is just having that kind of same format that you use throughout the entire of the notebook, and it makes for a very satisfying end of year flip through. But here's another month where the shortest and the last read are the same book. We have the favorite being One Dark Window, which we know is the favorite of the year, so that kind of makes sense, and the least favorite, sadly, being the book club read for the month. I'm not surprised by by this though. In terms of a book, it wasn't the most kind of like gripping and thrilling read. I do think the information in it was good, but it also is the kind of thing that it's probably just better to watch one of his videos rather than read the book. We have our stats down the bottom, the little pie graphs, our bought list looking a little bit bigger than last month, so a nice stack picture, and more of the little dragons, which are just so cute. And then for April, the decoration is little crystals, we have some candles, potion bottles. I like the color palette, it's very pretty. And as for the reading challenge she was undertaking this month, we've got the magical readathon, or the spring equinox for the Aurelium challenge. So the little tip in here just has the little blurb about the Master of Elements, which is the kind of undertaking or like career path that her character is going with. And then on the other side of this one, she has the syllabus for each of the different classes that can be taken, just giving what the supposed course focus is and thus what the reading prompt is. Notably, she doesn't have to read something for every single one of those prompts, but these are the prompts that she did have and the book she read. The other challenge we have though is TBR Takedown-a-thon, so we have a little bingo board here, which she's put a little dot on to say which ones she read for, and then underneath here we have the different covers of the reads that she included. Those ones also have the prompt that they were used for, and on the underside of the tip-in we also have a couple more. Flipping both of those back in so we can turn the page over, we have more of those little reviews. I also like that she distinctly uses the same pen for each of these as well. It's not just her regular writing pen, which I think makes it feel a little bit special. I don't use a lot of blue ink in my journal unless I'm doing headers or titles, that kind of thing. So it's also always quite interesting to see this much blue text in a notebook too. I feel like that's something we don't commonly see in our community. Down the bottom here though, she notably didn't have a book to fill in this space for the month, so it's been filled with some decoration. And then we have our summary page. This time the shortest and the last read were not the same book, so it doesn't always happen. The first read was the favourite, being Two Twisted Crowns, and then an honourable mention was also the longest of the month. I always think that Monica does a really good job of matching the colours on her little graphs to the stickers that she's used. It makes for very nice cohesive layouts, at least I think so. So we have her read statistics, her bought statistics, and then we are into May, which notably had quite a lot of books read considering it went all the way around here, and it's always nice to see that this happened during the month of the Goober Readathon. This was the reading challenge that we hosted as part of our book club, which you technically didn't have to be part of the book club to participate. You still don't have to be part of the book club to participate. We will definitely be having a Goober Readathon in May this year, but you can see we have the little tip in here that has the covers of the books she read, and then underneath here we have what the prompts actually were. This one was a point-based system, so different colors for different amounts of points. If you get a bingo or if you read one of the host favorites, extra points, that kind of a thing. It was so much fun. I hadn't hosted a readathon like that before, so it was definitely a standout memory for me in the year. But flipping that one back, we also have her book club space, her buddy reads, and her readathons. I feel very proud to know that the Bujo Buddies book club book was the one that she read out of those book club books. Again, she is a host, so like, yeah, kind of makes sense. But still, I'm gonna take that win anyways. We have The Never King, which is one of Rachel's favorite books. We then have some more reviews here. After this one, we have even more reviews. This was a good reading month, so lots of review pages for this one. I want to read this book, so I'm not going to look at that. In fact, I'm not going to look at any of this text because spoilers are everywhere. For instance, this is a book I would like to read, and I don't want to know. I don't want to know. And then because so much was read in the month, we actually need a little tip in here to then put the picture in and have the list of all of the books. So a total of 20 books read across the month of May. Another month where the shortest read was the last read, and a good split of audiobook to ebook to kind of like mixture read versus physical. Totally didn't mention it, but we're going with a fox and mushroom theme for this month. A small list of purchases, a decent list of unhauls, and the library saved her $92. I love when people record how much the library saved me in their layouts. I just think it's a lot of fun. For June though, we have what I'm calling like a dark fairy theme, mainly because there's a fairy here and the rest of the stickers have a darker color palette. I think that counts. On this one though, we have the TBR for the month, or like her list of hopefuls, things she was kind of planning on getting to. We then have the list of things that she actually read, given that they're highlighted, and those ones being denoted on the calendar as well. Our little tip in here just allows us to capture even more books, this one having 21 potential reads for the month, though one of them didn't get read, so that's only 20 in the month. I say only, that's like still a huge accomplishment. In terms of the reading challenge for the month though, we have the amazing readathon, which I am personally glad I did not partake in, because I heard a lot of noise about how that went down, and it sounded stressful, and it does not sound like my personal kind of party. To everybody who enjoyed it, I am not coming for you. I am so glad you had a good time. I just don't think that this is the way that I like to do reading challenges, because it sounded like it would stress me out. But we have a bunch of different ways to earn points from doing reads in this kind of set of prompts, and then we also had the city prompts, and then there was like a face-off weekend, and people were fighting each other. Okay, not actually fighting each other, but like deducting points from other teams and whatnot. I prefer a more chill reading challenge, a more kind of like pick your own adventure, go at your own pace type thing. But notably, Monica did read a lot and read a lot as part of this challenge. So I guess if the kind of point of the challenge was to read more, then the challenge paid off. It did have a decent set of prompts though, so maybe I need to go through this prompt list and see if I can sneak any into my own personal prompt list collection. After this though, we are into the reviews, and I swear some book covers are so dang pretty, and I know, like, you know, don't judge a book by its cover, but I totally do, and I will probably continue to, at least where books are concerned. This one I know was a favourite for the year, not necessarily the favourite, but definitely a highlight for Monica, so that one's probably going on my TBR as well. But because we had lots of reading done, that meant lots of reviews to be added into the journal. I know I said I wasn't going to read them, but a memoir disguised as a self-help book. This one I read for book club, so I've already read it. It's not really a spoiler, but anywho. The favourite of the month was The Tainted Cup. The shortest and last read were not the same book this time, and then because there were so many things read, we again have this little flip out so that we can record what the reads were and then have a picture from the Instagram. I feel like we have a new graph this time because we didn't have 5 last time, did we? So we had source, format, audience, and rating, but I think serial was new. We at least didn't have it for the end of February statistics, but come March, that was something she was also including. See, me not paying enough attention, just getting caught up in the cuteness of the journal and how aesthetic the pages look. Who needs substance when things look nice? Okay, we need substance, and there is a lot of substance here, and I love it. I'm a sucker for stats, little graphs make me happy. We have some cute decoration down the bottom corner here, and then we're into the mid-year review. Now, I don't know if I necessarily read enough to warrant doing this in my journal, but Monica definitely does. I love the graphs, so we have books read across each of the months. You can see that May and June were definitely heavy hitters, but even though that was the case, it was January and May that stood out in terms of the number of pages read. So less books, but bigger books, at least where January is concerned. For hours listened to, June was a standout, and for the library reads, January and June were on the top there, being 4 books each. We had her core statistics, so books read, pages read, hours listened to, DNFs, average rating, rereads, how many series she started, how many series she continued and completed, diverse reads, ones from her backlist, ones that are said as current. I'm not sure what current means, but she had 24 of them, 13 book club reads, 13 buddy reads, 71 readathon reads, so 71 books that she read out of the 83 that she had read by that point that were included in readathons. So not necessarily just read for the readathon, but ones that were aligned with readathon prompts. She had 37 books that she unhauled, 66 books that she bought, and 1,200 New Zealand dollars being the cost of that. As said though, reading is Monica's hobby. She loves doing it. Notably, she read 83 books by this point of the year. So we also have the publication years, so when those books were released. We have her ratings and then a little graph for those, the audience statistics, little graph, sources, the serial stats, so is it like a duology or a standalone or a series, the format that she read, and then the genres she read, with a overwhelming majority being fantasy. Are we surprised? No, not even remotely. That makes a lot of sense. But we also had some good representation for horror, mystery, and paranormal. Flipping on over though, we have more statistics, because these are the ones about purchases. So books bought and when they were bought, books unhauled and when they were unhauled, what format were they purchased in, what space or store were they bought from. She also has statistics around where things were read from, so like was it an Audible read, an Everand read, the Kindle, Kindle Unlimited, the library, other versus her owned books. And then we have a little graph for bought versus read. I love little pictures of covers, so we have her favourite and least favourite from the first half of the year, the first purchase and last purchase, some honourable mentions for the favourites, the most and least expensive, longest read, shortest read, 4 books she's anticipating from ones she's purchased, and then the first read and last read for the first half of the year. We also have a little set down the side here for her 5-star reads, so if you were looking for something to read, Monica will vouch for these ones. Flipping on over though, and we are into the second half of the year, or July. I do think it's kind of funny that we're like in the second half of the year and we've got strawberries again. It's like, yes, every half year we must start with strawberries. Probably not what actually happens, but I just thought it was a fun coincidence. We have the TBR for the month, when those things got read, the little picture to accompany it, and then in terms of the challenges, we had Camp TBR-a-thon, again hosted by Leandra, the TBR Zero, and there was also the KU and Kindle Mayhem, which was the 48-hour reading bingo. Given that it says May here, I feel like it would have been a May challenge. Maybe it was a May challenge, I don't actually know. Mainly because if we jump back, we can see that there is a sticker here for the Mayhem challenge, so I'm not too sure about that one, but it is here, and Monica did it. As for Camp TBR-a-thon, we have week 1 versus week 2, with there being different prompts on each of those. I think that the graphic is really cute for this though, and then there are also some additional prompts under here as well. I love seeing everybody's creativity with these different reading challenges and such, and like tying them to something else. So this one being kind of like camp themed. There's Bookymon being like kind of Pokemon themed. The Magical Readathon being based around a school of magic, which is just, it's kind of exciting. And then we have a different format. So instead of using a half page, we're now onto thirds, means much less writing required for each of these. I do a system that's kind of similar in my reading journal, or at least did in 2024. I'm not sure at this stage as to how I'm going to be reviewing my reads in 2025, but I like that this has less space. It feels less daunting. You don't have to write as much. Especially if you're reading a lot, writing half a page for each book could feel a little overwhelming probably, but that means that we have 6 books per spread, 3 on each page. And then we have the stats for the month. This one though, our double up is the favorite and the last read. If you're wondering about how to print off all of these little book covers, we do have a separate video on the channel that describes how you can do that. It has steps for using Microsoft Word, Google Sheets, and Canva, so hopefully there is a system that can help you out. But we have a very nice little rating breakdown. That one looks pretty cute. No DNFs for the month, always a nice thing. You know that she didn't come across any books that she felt the need to DNF. If you're not enjoying a book, go forth and DNF it. You do not have to finish books you're not enjoying. We have the bought statistics, the formats, where it was bought from, and then some decoration. And then after this, we're into August. These stickers are from the washi tape shop. They come on a big roll. And the reading challenge that we were undertaking in August was Deck of TBR-a-thon. This is one that I also did. I found it really fun. I read more in August than I had in any other month of the year, which I mean, when comparing to Monica's reading statistics, isn't that much, but I like to think of this as it's your own race. It's okay if you're only reading like 1 book a month, or even maybe a couple of books throughout the year. For me, reading should be an enjoyable thing. It shouldn't be a stressful thing, like, oh my gosh, I have to read 10 books this month, otherwise I've like failed as a reader. That's not the point. These reading challenges though can be a fun way to kind of incentivize yourself or gamify your reading. They don't have to be stressful, and thus I like to go for reading challenges that don't feel stressful. And this one was like that. You can see we have the little flip out here that has the different cards and their prompts though. And on the underside of this one, we have the cards that she pulled and the ratings she gave to each of the books that she read for those cards. I think this is quite a cute way to do it. I ended up just doing like a cover summary page, but I always like that she has the little ratings next to or like on the book. I think that's kind of fun. But closing that one up so that we can flip over and look at the reviews. Again, going with the 6 per spread view. And Jess not looking too closely because she doesn't want any spoilers. This one was our book club read. I really enjoyed that book. And it was a sci-fi, which was interesting for me because usually I'm not a fan of sci-fi, or at least I haven't previously found myself to be much of a fan, but it was a good book. This color palette is so pretty, it matches these stickers really well. And then for any of the books that are on this kind of angle instead of the face forward one, this is because it's a special edition copy that she read, or in this case, a special edition copy that she purchased, thus this was the most expensive. And that one we actually ended up reading as a buddy read. but that one is in a little bit. Actually, this one was also a book club book. I also really like flipping through Monica's journal because it's like a personal trip down memory lane as well. Notably, I don't read everything that she reads, but I do read some of the things she reads. For September, we have these green kind of witchy vibe stickers, and in terms of books read, we have 6 across the month. The reading challenge she was undertaking was the autumn equinox for the magical readathon. This one giving you 8 prompts, so I assume some of these got read at a later date rather than in September, which is exactly the same way as I tackle this, because the calling that I've gone with for the challenge is also one that gives you 8 prompts, and I find it hard to read 8 books in 1 month, so I take the approach of the challenge is set in September, and then the next equinox isn't until April, so I have until April to read those books. I don't think Monica typically does it that way, but at least that's how I like to tackle it. After this though, we have the reviews for the 6 books she read, and I know we mentioned before that it's kind of nice going to this format because you have less space that you need to fill with writing. That's at least something that would have been a concern point for me, but I think one of the main concern points for Monica was probably the amount of space left in her reading journal. Having a look at where the mid-year point fell, this is a little over halfway through the reading journal, which kind of makes sense because you have the start of journal set up as well, but just to safeguard herself against maybe running out of pages, I think that going to a format where you do 6 per spread rather than just 4 makes a lot of sense. It also means that for this month where she read 6 books and DNF'd one of them, she could fit all of those onto the one spread, and then we're into the review. So we have a list of the books read, we have the fact that there was 1 DNF. She does include the DNF as a book that was read. I wonder where her cutoff point for that is. I'm not too sure. I'll have to ask her. I personally don't have a good cutoff point myself. Like, if I get to 30% of the way through a book, I'll probably still say I read it, because I probably got through as much of it as I could get through before I was like, yeah, this book is not for me. She noted at the bottom of this spread though that she did get to 42%. And in general, she just wasn't really enjoying the book, so she decided not to continue. We have a whole range of greens to go along with our green stickers, and 8 books that she unhauled, including the one that she DNF'd, which makes a lot of sense. Flipping over into October though, and we have a very fun, like, kind of fall vibes, pumpkin pie kind of theme, which I always find kind of funny because in our country, New Zealand, it is definitely not fall vibes in October. It is kind of, you know, the middle of spring. But despite that, I still associate October with fall. This color palette with these stickers though also makes sense for the reading challenge of TBR Harvest, again hosted by Leandra, the TBR Zero. But on this layout, we have the calendar, we have the books she was thinking of reading and highlighting the ones she did read. We have her book clubs, readathons, Blackoween, which is another reading challenge, with those prompts on a little tip-in. We love tip-ins. And then the TBR Harvest being Escape the Haunted House challenge, which I also technically partook in to the extent that I drew out the layout, and notably had a lot of fun drawing the layout. I just didn't end up reading a lot that month. I think I read something like 1 book, and that 1 book didn't really fit with the first prompt of the challenge, so wah wah. Underneath this tip-in though, we have the books that she was reading for the TBR Harvest, and on the underside of the tip-in we have the prompts for the challenge. Flipping that one back in so that we can have a look at the books that were read, we have 6 for the month of October, and then we're into the review layout. I do like that Monica has her set formula of like my monthly intro pages, my reviews, and my outro pages. When you're using a similar type of setup each month, it makes the setup process a lot faster, which means she has more time for reading, so that's awesome. I also love that this guy is just dominating in this field, so an honorable mention, and it was the longest read, and it was the first one read. It is not surprising in the slightest that her least favorite was Feel Good Productivity, mainly because it's a self-help non-fiction book and she doesn't typically lean towards those, but overall it wasn't a terrible book. In terms of books bought, we have 22 books, and that definitely makes sense because October was the month we went to the Sydney bookshop hop. This was a little vacation that Rachel, Monica, myself, and some of our other international friends took. We all met up in Sydney, we went to a bunch of different bookshops, they bought books, I followed them around. It was a really good time, and it makes sense that her purchasing list is a little bit longer this month because the entire point of going, along with, you know, just meeting up with international friends, was to buy books. So yeah. Along with that though, we have a decent chunk of unhauled ones and a couple that were borrowed from the library. After this, we're into November, and I love these stickers. I use them in my reading journal, or at least have previously. And in this one, we don't have a little picture of her hopeful pile. I wonder if she posted one, or if maybe it didn't happen that month. In terms of the reading challenge she decided to go with though, instead of going with one that was kind of like pre-structured by somebody else or kind of released to the wider community, Monica decided to make her own reading challenge using a D20, so listing out 20 books that she possibly wanted to read, ones that were on her radar, and then rolling the D20 to see which one she ended up reading. We can see the ones that got picked were number 2, number 8, 10 and 16, and given that 8 was the book club book, I'm glad it got rolled, otherwise she would have had to read that in addition. In theory, we have 11 books read in November, so we have the first 6 here. I do like that she numbers them as we go through so you can see how many she's read, and then the next 5 here with some decorative space at the bottom. So at the end of November, up to 132 books for the year. The first read was an honorable mention, the longest read was the least favorite, and the last read was the favorite. We do have the little pictures return for things that were read versus things that were bought, statistics, little graphs, and a decent list of unhauled, which does seem to be an entire series here, or at least a chunk of a series. I don't know how many books are in that series. And this month, the library saved her $134. As said before, I just really like that as a statistic. I think it's a fun thing to track. And I think it's also quite cute that we're ending the year with blueberries, like December's kind of wrap-up layouts. Like December's layouts being here with blueberries and January's having blueberries and strawberries. But we have 15 books on this list, and a decent chunk of those coming from the D20 challenge. I like that she prints it so that it matches the color of the layout she's gone with, and then she prints off the little book covers and sticks these on top. Nobody reads for December. We were all too busy setting up our reading journals. We could not possibly. We have a dedicated page for the Lightfall challenge, which is kind of part of the Magical Readathon. It's like an optional part from my understanding, or at least I took it as an optional part because I didn't do it. And then we also have the KU and Kindle Mayhem return. Starting with our reviews over here though, we have the first 3 and then the next 6. And after this we have another 6 because there was plenty of reading to happen in December. Unlike me, who read like 1 book or something, so good job, Monica. I like that Hell Yeah or No matches in with its very bright yellow cover, even if it was the least favorite, which is not in any way surprising. But we have the read statistics, the purchases, the unhauled. I like that there were 25 books bought, and it was like, you know, December 25th is Christmas, and we celebrate Christmas. I think that was just a coincidence, but I still think it's cute. And then after December, more statistics! I know, I am a statistics nerd and I love it. This kind of stuff just makes me very happy. So, across the year, we had 148 books read. Jessica, she could not. Monica, heck to the yeah, this is in keeping with her character. Pages read, we had 26,989. And then hours listened to, we had 1,061. Across the year, she had 4 DNFs, her average rating was 4, 5 books were rereads, she started 48 series, she continued with 46 series, or like books that were in a series and continued a series. She had 46 of those, and 9 series were completed. In terms of book purchasing, we have 3,500 New Zealand dollars, which, given the fact that I spend like about that much on food out, at least she has a book to show for her purchases. Not that I regret the food I bought, because it was delicious, or at least enough of it was delicious that I don't feel bad about it. But I love the little graphs she's included, so the ratings, audience, we have the sources, whether they were part of a series, formats and genres, and then flipping over we have the same kind of statistics but for book purchasing. So books bought versus unhauled, with a decent chunk coming out in December. Heck yeah, end of year decluttering, where they were purchased from, where things were read from if they weren't like purchased, format purchased, and then the read versus unread of the ones that she bought, with a decent chunk of that being ones that she read. Over here though, we have the favorite and least favorite of the year. Neither of these are surprising to me, and 2 honorable mentions, which I know I'm gonna have to read The Tainted Cup now because Monica recommends it. The longest book and the shortest book, the first and last read. We then have her statistics in terms of purchasing, so first and last bought, the most expensive versus least expensive, and then the 4 that she's anticipating still. And then she also has some awards that she's given out in different categories. The ones she's given out are debut author, sequel, audiobook, genre blend, novella, graphic novel, romantasy, horror, mystery, non-fiction, middle grade, and sci-fi. Given that this is a book that I have not read and it's in the non-fiction category, maybe I will read that one. But after this, we have her 5-star reads, so any book that she read this year that was a 5-star has gone on here. And then we have the book Matrix. I love the book Matrix. I love that it gives you a definitive ranking of the top however many books. In this case, it's the top 10 because she has A through J, but each of the books gets assigned a letter, and then those books go head to head. So A versus B, A was the winner. A versus C, A was the winner. B versus C, B was the winner. As you do this for all of the books though, you can then see how many times each letter appeared. Whichever one appeared the most, that's the best of the year. Whichever one appeared the least, or not at all, that's the least best of the year. Or at least the least best of the 10 that you picked. In terms of the definitive ranking of the top 3 books, we have One Dark Window, followed by Two Twisted Crowns, followed by The Tainted Cup. After this, it was J, Throne of Secrets, followed by H, which was Quicksilver, which is why I have to read it, because it was highly rated throughout the year. Flipping over though, the next layout we have is her year of reads, and I love that she's made these little covers for each of the months as well. So it's like, hey, these were all of my January reads. These were all of February's. We have March, April, May, lots in May, which goes over the page as it says continued, because June starts here. Again, lots of books for June. July, August. Flipping on over, we have September, which you can see has distinctly more little decorative pieces because we have 6 books here and a DNF. Any of the DNFs have been put in grey. So where are the other ones? Because I'm not necessarily as familiar with these books, I don't necessarily know if it's like, oh, it's grey because you didn't read it. I know that one's grey because she didn't read it. Spider-Man's red. Or if it's just an actually grey cover, but flipping back, October, November, all the way across here, and then December. These stickers are so cute. Again, those ones being from Papershire. And then after this, we have the formats read in 2024. So you can see the key we have up here is audiobook, physical book, ebook, and mixture. And then she just has all of the books that she read across the year and the format that she read them in. For a second, I thought this was one very big book along with this one, but no, they're just all read as audiobooks because audiobooks still count as a way to consume books. We have the same idea, but for her hauls of the year, again with those little monthly cover stickers, which are they're just so sweet. And I like that they kind of blend in with the covers as well, but still give you a breakdown of when things were purchased. So we've got that, continued, November, December, good crop of books. And then rather than leaving the last pages just open, sitting there looking blank and sad, Monica likes to stick those together, so then at the very end here, we just have a little breakdown of how her core pile system works. So each of characters, atmosphere, writing, plot, intrigue, logic, and enjoyment, and the little blurbs that she has to kind of help her assign points in each of those categories. And if we flip those over, we have the same but for non-fiction, using the system that I like to use, which is credibility, accessibility, writing, payoff, individuality, logic, and enjoyment. Both Monica and I think also Rachel, aren't going to be using Core Pile next year though, so I'm interested to see what system Monica goes with. I'm going with more of a like vibes system, but I've actually already released a video about that for our channel members. The bookmarks are just tucked into the back pocket, and that is another year done in Monica's reading journal. A big thanks to Monica for letting us look through another one of her completed reading journals, and if you liked this one and want to encourage Monica to let us look at her 2025 one when that one's all finished, be sure to like the video. As mentioned a couple of times, Monica's journal is very much an inspiration source for my own notebook, and if you wanted to see more completed reading journal flip-throughs, then the playlist we have on screen here is the next one to check out. That one has not only my reading journal flip-throughs, but also all of the other ones we've done in Monica's journals, so click or tap on that one and I'll see you over there.